Please remember to post a like, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you can always get my latest travel videos. The top things that'll surprise you about Moscow, Russia. The customer service in Moscow is excellent. The food quality in restaurants and takeout is excellent. The restaurants are not packed, they're not crowded, and you don't have to wait in line to get in. The body language of Russians is different, so you have to be aware of how Russians think and behave. Russians don't naturally smile at strangers. They consider that impolite. So you have to make small adjustments in how you view body language when you come to Russia. The public transportation system in Moscow, Russia is top-notch. It's beyond anything you've probably ever experienced in Europe. There's subways, there are buses, there are trams, they run on time, and they are of excellent quality, and they're not crowded because there's so many of them. Moscow, Russia is very clean and very beautiful and very well maintained. There's not many potholes or road closures. During my 5 full days in Moscow, Russia, I saw only 3 homeless people and 2 beggars. The people of Moscow that I saw treated their homeless with dignity and some respect. Unfortunately, we don't do that anymore in North America because there's so many of them. We tend to ignore our homeless. So that was another difference that I found and that impressed me. The supermarkets in Moscow, Russia have excellent food. All freshly prepared foods, wines, beers, whatever, gourmet meals. All you got to do is take it back to your hotel, put it in a microwave, heat it, and there were excellent quality meals. I hope you enjoyed my surprises of Moscow, Russia. What to know about sanctions before you travel to Russia. Sanctions were imposed on Russia by our government, Canadian, American, British, and European. So it's not the Russian government's fault. So if you go to Russia, don't get frustrated by the rules. The Russians are simply following the rules. The Americans, Canadians, Brits, and Europeans made the rules. So what you need to be aware of is the following. Your credit card will not work in Russia. Your debit card will not work in Russia. The only way a Westerner can travel in Russia is with cash. That cash has to be Russian rubles cash. However, you cannot buy Russian rubles cash in Canada, USA, Great Britain, or Europe because Russian cash is sanctioned. You can get a tourist visa to Russia, but my recommendation is that you get it about 4 weeks in advance and don't buy your airline ticket until you have the visa because the airline that you book with is going to require the visa number as you buy your ticket. No American, Canadian, British, or European airlines flies to Russia anymore. So if you're trying to use your points to fly to Russia, you're out of luck. Just in case you're waiting for the sanctions to end before traveling to Russia, I have my opinions on that. In my humble opinion, our sanctions against Russia are not going to be ending anytime soon. I believe, unfortunately, for the following reason. Once a Westerner goes to Russia, it becomes obvious to the Westerner that the Western media and Western politicians have been lying to them. So I don't see the Western politicians being in a hurry to remove the sanctions and allowing you to go to Russia that easily.
Now, as I said before, sanctions are not Russia's rules. They are our Western government rules. So, if you are a tourist from, say, China, India, Turkey, Argentina, Brazil, or about 80 other countries in the world, these sanctions don't affect you. It's our Western governments that impose the sanctions. Our government wants to create the illusion to you, the Western traveler, that Russia is backward. That's precisely why you and I, as Westerners, have to go through these hurdles in order to travel to Russia during sanctions. Also, keep in mind that prior to February 2002, you, as a Westerner, could travel to Russia as a tourist about as easily as you could visit anywhere else in Europe.
Airlines and hotels travel tips. You need Russian rubles cash in order to check into a Russian hotel. Russian hotels can't accept any foreign currency because of sanctions. So if you bring a big wad of US dollars or euros, they can't help you to check into that hotel. Be warned. If you're going to exchange your US dollars or euros, when you go to exchange your currency, your Western currency, into Russian rubles at a currency exchange that carries Russian rubles, just remember that they must be in denominations of 50 or 100, and the bills must be fairly new and completely unmarked. They can't accept old bills because it won't go through the currency readers at the currency exchange locations. Flights and hotels for Russia. For hotels, remember, you cannot use a Western hotel booking company. So you can't use hotels.com, you can't use Expedia, and you can't use Airbnb to book any hotels in Russia. So the only way you can do it is to contact the Russian hotel directly by going onto the website and using email, negotiating a price, and they'll wait for you, and when you arrive, you can pay them with cash. The only problem is that if you arrive after 8 p.m., they're going to give your room away because you didn't arrive before 8 p.m. So you have to figure out a website, usually a Russian hotel booking website, by which you can pay. And there are some Russian websites that'll do that. I found one, and 3 days later they were sanctioned and they couldn't operate. So you can get lucky by doing that, or you can just arrive in the morning and check into your hotel later on in the afternoon. That's a little bit easier to do, but you'll have to operate with cash when you pay for a hotel. When you fly to Russia, you cannot use any Western airline to fly to Russia. So you can't use Lufthansa, you can't use any American carrier like Delta or Air Canada or United or anything like that. No Air France, no British Airways. You can use airlines that have refused to sanction Russia. And those airlines are, of course, airlines from China. And the most popular one that I found was Turkish Airways, which is, I believe, currently the largest airlines in the world. That's what I use to fly to Russia. You can also fly Air Serbia from Belgrade. They run nonstop flights from Belgrade, and they do fly to Russia, and they do arrive in the morning into Moscow, Russia. You cannot use any American, Canadian, British, or European booking agency to buy that airline ticket. You have to go to the actual site of the airline and put your credit card number in, because companies like Expedia can't book you a ticket to go to Russia. I hope you enjoyed my hotels and flights travel tips to go to Russia. Travel tips on how to travel to Russia during sanctions. Tip number 1, remember that if you want to travel to Russia, you're going to need cash. That cash has to be Russian rubles only. No place in Russia will accept US dollars or euros or any other foreign currency that is Western because of Western sanctions. So if you arrive at 2 o'clock in the morning into a Russian airport, the currency exchange at that Russian airport may be closed. And if you don't have Russian rubles cash, you can't even get into a taxi. You can't check in to an airport hotel because they're going to require rubles cash. So it's best to get your rubles, Russian rubles, from a country which refuses to put sanctions on Russia. A common example of those countries is Serbia and Turkey. not Poland, not Hungary. Those countries, no matter how they feel about Russia, are forced to put sanctions on Russia and are forced not to be able to sell you Russian rubles cash. So my tip to you is get your Russian rubles cash before you arrive in Russia. And you can get that through a country that has refused to sanction Russia, like Turkey. I got my rubles cash in Belgrade, Serbia, because Serbia refuses to sanction Russia. Now, here's a great travel tip that I wish I knew before I came to Russia, which I will pass on to you. The Russian government allows foreigners, including Canadians, Americans, Brits, and Europeans, to open up a Russian bank account and get a Russian debit card. So you can arrive to any Russian bank with foreign currency, including US dollars or Canadian dollars. US is more recommended, or euros is also recommended. And you can walk into that bank in Russia and open up a bank account with just your passport. That bank will then give you a debit card loaded with the Russian ruble equivalent of the cash that you've given them. Now, again, to get to that bank, you're going to need to hire a taxi with Russian rubles cash. I've operated with Russian rubles cash the entire time I've been in Moscow, Russia. Rubles cash is widely accepted in Moscow, Russia, except for automated gates where they require a cashless payment in order to, for example, get into the subway. So you're going to have to line up at a kiosk and get yourself a subway pass or a value stored card. And you just have to line up at the kiosk and pay in cash. That's the only way you can do it. I paid for my hotels, my meals, my restaurants, my groceries, and anything else with cash, including the metro. And I was able to do it. So I'm sure you can too. I hope you enjoyed my travel tips. Again, Moscow, Russia is an excellent place to visit, and I hope these travel tips help you. Please stay tuned, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe, post a like, and hit the notification bell for future videos.